Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm gonna do a little bit of a different type of video today. It's really late here. I actually just got done meeting up with a guy I met at a card show about a month ago, and he bought a case of 2025 Topps Finest USC from me. We had to meet at the Hard Rock Casino, and it's almost midnight here, so I am tired, but I wanted to do a video. And I want to talk a little bit about the latest PSA controversy that's going on in the news. And just in case you didn't know, I'll give a quick recap. Basically, there was a user on Twitter that posted that they had cards graded a PSA. A bunch of them came back PSA 9s. If you're not familiar, when you go through the grading process with PSA, you can sell cards back through PSA's network, and there are offers on those cards. And PSA is not buying the cards from you, but dealers in the PSA network are buying the cards from you that you just have graded, still at PSA. And they either put those cards in their shop or they put them in the repacks to resell or whatever they want to do with them. And this has been going on for a few months. I've utilized it hundreds of times for cards that I have graded. It is amazing. It is very simple, it's very easy, it allows cash flow, it allows liquidity. And if you choose not to sell your cards at PSA, you can always sell them through PSA on eBay and you set your price, or you can have them shipped back to you. So it's a really good service, and I've had only positive experience with it. But in this specific situation, apparently somebody had a bunch of cards graded 9s. They sold them through the PSA offers program. They got paid at 9 value, so let's say it was $30 a card. Apparently they went back later and did an audit through their orders or their certificate numbers on PSA. And a lot of those cards changed into 10s. And that user posted on social media, and it went like wildfire through the internet, at least in this part of the internet, with Collectibles. And every conspiracy theory from that PSA bought the cards at a 9 and then changed the grades to a 10 so they make more money selling it. We've heard that. We've heard that PSA, because they got pressure on social media, and this went a little bit viral, that they changed the grades to make the user happy. I mean, it's an interesting scenario and it's an interesting situation. And the fact of the matter is that the conspiracy theorists will hammer away and focus on blind alleys, what I like to call them. And the fact of the matter is nobody knows the truth except PSA, the people that work there, and the CEO, Nat Turner. So the reason why I have this post up is you have Twitter user Polly Donuts, who's pretty well known in collectibles. What's this news I'm hearing about PSA card allegedly giving grade values as 9s, buying them and making them 10s. If this would be next level, if this damage would be catastrophic for the biz. So like right away, it's kind of like a baiting comment. I mean, PSA and Fanatics is a multi-billion-dollar company. If you think that they're buying 9s and switching to 10s, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you have bigger problems to worry about, and you're not thinking it through clearly. Fanatics is a company, PSA is a company. Should say PSA, leave Fanatics out of it. They have nothing to do with it. Though I misspoke. Like I said, I'm tired, I apologize. But PSA is at a corporate level. They're not giving directives through memos or emails or to any employees to buy 9s from customers and change them to 10s and then resell them. I can guarantee that that is not happening. So the comment goes on a little bit further, and Nat Turner, who's the CEO of Collectors, who's is PSA essentially and PSA coins. His comment, guys, it's a network of third-party buyers, not PSA. Buying cards via PSA offers program is described here. Then another user chimes in that doesn't explain how they are then regraded by the same company that gave the same card a different original grade, same card, same cert, different grades. So Nat Turner goes on a whole different rant here, or explanation, I should say. He's not the one ranting. He's giving explanations. And I should say that, a lot of collectors in this business have only been around since COVID. So you're talking like 4 or 5 years. And they think that that 4 or 5 years encapsulates the entire collectibles world and everything that's happened in this point in time. Like, that's all they know. So for me, I've been in the collectibles business as a collector, 40 years. I would say in the business for 30 years, give or take, on and off. So I've had conversations with Nat Turner over social media. Like, him and I have conversed over Instagram. He is out there as a collector. He's a huge collector of high-end basketball cards and basketball wax, and posts those. You don't want anybody leading your company that's involved in the collectibles world other than Nat Turner, because he has a business mind and he has the mind of a collector. And I think when you combine the two, you get a base case scenario. So I just want to provide a little context that, people only know Nat Turner from in the short term, but I've been following Nat Turner and have dealt with him for a long time. So let's kind of get back into this. Orders of certain cards or certain orders are occasionally reviewed for quality purpose. So that is true. When you grade cards with PSA, I don't know how many actually do this. When you do it yourself versus submitting it through a third party. When you do it yourself, you actually learn the process and understand a little bit more how it works. The good, the bad, and some of the things that can happen. So even when your grades are done and your cards get slabbed, there is a process built into the tree that goes through, that shows the tracking. There's like a secondary review of the grades. Now, exactly what that looks like and what that entails and the level for each order, that I can't speak to, but it is there. Now, is Nat Turner talking about this process and this comment? I'm not totally sure. Maybe, maybe not. This may be another review process beyond the secondary review of the grades you get, that they do some internal audit control, that they cherry pick a certain percentage of orders and they review them again. So let's keep going. So with adjustments made, if it was determined an error was made in the grading process or otherwise this order was still at PSA and hadn't been shipped yet, making it eligible to be reviewed. For example, occasionally a PSA card unfortunately misses a counterfeit card. It goes through the process and we're alerted to it and we'll review it and deactivate the certification even though it was already graded, or a card had its grade swapped with another card in the same order and the labels need to be fixed. He goes on to talk about that this happens rarely. The issue, so this is the important part. The issue was the system was unaware that the person submitter had also accepted offers. So the accepted offer simply will be reversed and refunded. And then he mentions, then that mentions later, I should mention we'll be making updates to our system so that any cards that have had offers accepted on them, but then something changes before the order ships, either a grade change up or down or cert is deactivated, the relevant offers will be automatically reversed. So the way I interpret this is that they have an internal review process built in that's been there for a long time. They just layered on this new process with offers, and this was essentially a glitch that the user shouldn't have been able to accept the offers on the 9s until it went through the final review that Nat is referencing. Or the other part of it is that if the user did accept the 9 reviews and the search changed, the user should have been notified of it and paid the extra money or had the chance to get the cards back or whatever. So it sounds like it was more of a software glitch in this specific situation. And yes, I do trust Nat Turner. And maybe I'm an idiot. And maybe, my mind isn't working properly or I'm not seeing this the right way. But I trust Nat Turner. Every interaction I have with him, he's a stand-up guy. Does Nat make mistakes? Absolutely. Everybody does. But there are some good points here. So like there's this comment here. I'm going to highlight it. You adjusted 11 grades on this single order. There was like 1/3 of them. So basically, if I remember, it was 36 cards and 11 of the grades went from 9 to 10. The comment, that's not a rare occurrence, subject to grading, subject to reviews. So that part, I will say there's some validity to it. So, sending cards to get graded, the whole concept of that is kind of weird to me. My hot take on all this grading stuff, and I've graded more cards than most people. I bought cards graded, sold cards graded from $1 up to over $100,000. My graded collection is pretty substantial. But the one thing I will say is the thought that a card could be $20 ungraded, and then you grade it and it's worth $300 is kind of interesting, especially for modern cards. And why we value these grades so much, why a 10 is the standard, and even what that means. PSA is like a mint 9 grade, and then the Gem Mint 10 grade. And even between there's variances, and there's companies that assign ratings to like a strong 9 or a strong 10, and it gets kind of convoluted, and it kind of goes back to like why we started collecting in the first place. I know for me, I like cards that are visually appealing, that look cool, but that also players that I connect with, I grew up with. I mean, the first card I ever bought was a 1981 Topps Joe Montana rookie. I think I bought that for like $3 back in, what year would that have been? I bought that. I think I got it in actually 1982, if I remember, for like $3. And my perspective on collecting is so different because I started so long ago versus, people today and the way the market is and how liquid it is. I mean, there was a time back when I collected, you would go to like a mall or a card store and there was a book called Tough Stuff. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that. It was a pricing guide and it came out every month, and Beckett had a pricing guide too. And they had these prices in there, and cards would go up and down and things would be hot or not. And it was the hype and the energy of it. Very similar today. The difference is that grading is taking off, the amount of people collecting is taking off, but also how cards can be transacted and the size of the market, how fast things can happen, has evolved exponentially. So my market isn't just going to my 1 or 2 card shops in a 50-mile radius and trying to sell a card. And back in the day, they didn't pay 90% comps or 95% comps. You were lucky to get 50 or 40%. So if the card said $3 in a book, you were lucky to get $1.50 for that card. And that's just how it used to be because you had no other options. What are you going to do? Are you going to take on an ad in the newspaper back in the day in the classifieds, or do a mailer that you're selling cards? And people used to do that back then too. So kind of circle this point up, kind of all over the place. But it kind of brings me back to the point of like why we value grading so much in the first place. And I think most of it is just because of the dollar amount attached to it. And people are going to value cards, and it's a cycle. Like you get a 10, the card is rare, people think it's special. Why do people collect in the first place? Are they investing or collecting? You have this whole spectrum of people, and it's fascinating to kind of talk it through and think about, because there's no way to tell anybody to spend your money, but I think there's definitely a way to maybe think about it and be a little more intelligent. So I know for me, graded cards are more important for me to verify that they're authentic, which PSA can make mistakes, to put it in a secure holder that is sonically sealed, which is not infallible. The cases can break, they can crack. They're not, if you put them in water, like the water's probably gonna get in. I know for Beckett, they definitely do. I think PSA does as well. They're definitely not waterproof. If you leave them out in the sun, they can get damaged. So you gotta think about that part of it too of, when you send a card to get graded or you're buying a card that's graded and, you're paying $20,000 because it's a 10, but you can get the card ungraded for $500, let's say, or in that range or even less. What are you really doing this for? Are you doing it to chase dollars? And people make a ton of money grading. I mean, I've done very well doing grading now. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. I think that you can make money flipping 10s and 9s in the grading game, but as far as investing long term, I think my opinion's changed on this a little bit. I think as people have higher expectations for the grading companies and holding PSA to higher standards, and as they become more transparent and collectors post more and they post more videos and they share more content, all the mistakes that PSA make is going to get out there, and it is now. This is a big mistake, and I just showed a little bit of clip here, but there are dozens, if not hundreds, of videos on YouTube about this situation, and hundreds of thousands of tweets about it. And there's posts of stores no longer taking submissions from customers, excuse me, to send the PSA, and they're boycotting it. My personal opinion is that it's not going to affect PSA's bottom line. I think Nat Turner's smart enough to make tweaks where he can and improvements where the system can. But it kind of leans into this channel a little bit. So the goal of this channel was to focus on collecting UFC sealed boxes while also commentating on the singles market, the card market, and other collectibles related to UFC. But the whole point of why I started this channel was because I wanted to document the journey of somebody that's a seasoned collector that's been doing this for decades to go into something totally new, something I have to learn about, but it's a sport I love, but I'm certainly not an expert in all the fighters and all the fight styles and that level of knowledge. And in other sports, I've collected a lot of sealed product and sealed wax. I mean, I have boxes, sealed boxes from 86 Fleer, Jordan's rookie, 87, 88, 89, multiple years of baseball, hockey, football, you name it. When I first got in the UFC was when I started this channel because it was a new, exciting endeavor. And I wanted to document the process for myself, but I also wanted to put it out there to get perspective from other people, maybe share a little knowledge from somebody that's doing this for a little while. But the point is that there's going to be a day in the near future, and I don't know if the near future is a year or 3 years or 5 years, but there is going to be a huge shift in how we look at grading and what that means. I think when you have humans giving an opinion on a card, giving it a 9 or a 10, and the swing in money is so great, especially when you're dealing with these high-end collectors that, like their collections are worth $1 million, $2 million minimum, and they're dealing in this high end. Like, what happens when they start losing faith in the grading and they stop caring about the grades, but more about the cards? I think we're there in some aspects a little bit, but not at the shift that I think is going to happen. So does AI play into this a little bit? I think it does down the road. How does AI grading affect all the millions of cards graded before it by humans? It's an interesting concept to think about. Do you have to send it in to get the AI review, and it gives the human review and the AI review? How does AI even do the grading? Who's calibrating that system? Who's in charge of that? Who's monitoring that? It's a lot to think about. But the one thing I am very confident in is that if you look at the market for grading and how, this is not the first controversy PSA has dealt with. They've dealt with a ton of them, and they've navigated it. And collectors get angry, they leave, they come back. I mean, I think the average life cycle of a collector is probably 6 months or a year into something. Like, they're into it, they stop, they move on with life, they come back. It's kind of like a love and hate relationship sometimes with collecting, or you get burnt out, or you run out of money, or you get bored, or you get pissed off at PSA in this situation, and you're done with it and you stop. But I think when it comes to sealed boxes, it removes a lot of the issues with graded cards. So yes, mistakes could be made when authenticating sealed boxes, but I know when I buy a sealed box from Topps and it gets delivered to me through the mail and I get that box, unless there's a flaw in the production process or the hits that are supposed to be in the box or not in the box aren't in there, it's a very simple transaction. I buy the box, I get it. When I buy boxes from Blowout or Steel City or Dave & Adams, it comes from them. They get it directly from the manufacturer. They're the distributor. I buy it as the end customer. That seems very simple to me and more manageable with less chance for errors and mistakes. Yes, boxes are bigger. Yes, they're clunky. There could be flaws in the box, like I said, but when you think it through long term, and it's about collecting, Breaking boxes is a big thing. Like, is that going to be where people go maybe in the future? They stop worrying so much about the grading of the cards and they focus on the boxes and the cards themselves. I mean, I know for me, when I buy graded cards now, it starts with the card and the eye appeal and what I think about it. The grade of it matters less than how I care about the card. And I think more collectors would enjoy the hobby more about that too, because we're all in this to have fun and enjoy ourselves and have a good time. And submitting through PSA, while it can be lucrative, like certainly is not, I would not call it a stress-free transaction. I mean, you're mailing your cards out, they can get lost or stolen in the mail. And I'll do another video on this one day, but I mean, I've had a $20,000 card sent by registered mail, which is the safest mail system in the world. The Hope Diamond in 1953 was mailed using registered mail, and it's tracked, you know, by hand and logged. Like that got lost and it missing, and who the hell knows where that is? I've had UPS lose packages, FedEx lose packages. So like every shipping company, there's risk. So you're taking a risk shipping it to PSA. You're taking a risk when they get it because they may take forever to grade it. They may screw your card up. That happens too, whether you read about it or not. It does happen. The graders are not infallible, but also their opinion on the card could be wrong. Graders are humans. Graders go through divorces. They go through financial problems. They have bad days. They have headaches. They get into arguments. They have off days or good days, just like anyone else at a job. There's a term online about the grader of death, that their order got the grader of death and, you know, gave them all bad grades, and it's kind of a meme. But then they got to grade the cards, and they got to slab the cards, which they can screw up your cards in slabbing and crimp the edge by accident. That's happened before. And then you got to get it mailed back to you, and it can get lost in mail in that transaction. So you look at like the complication of the transaction, and yes, like the reveal of getting your grades and seeing a 10, like you get the dopamine hit from that, and it's exciting. But like even that, like maybe you mail the card out and it's worth $1,000 and it's stuck at PSA for 3 months, and by the time you get it back in a 10, it's down to 400, or maybe you win and it goes up to 2,000. Like that's that variance too. And I think the gambling part of the grading is what people get off on, not the actual importance of the grade itself and what it's supposed to mean. And I think that there's going to be a reckoning with that with collectors eventually. And I think buying and flipping graded cards and buying 9s and flipping 9s, or buying 10s and flipping 10s, or trying to buy a 9 and crack it out and submit it as a 10 or try to get a 10. Like people do that too. I've done that before. Then you have people cleaning cards. You know, that's another thing to consider too. If you're pro that or con that, I'm not here to talk about that. But it is something to think about. Like maybe seal boxes and seal wax is easier. It's lower stress, less chance for mistakes in the line of possession of the item and what can go wrong. And it really is the core of the whole collecting market, because all these cards, maybe I shouldn't say all these cards. I'm going to say it. All these cards come out of packs and boxes anyway. So maybe the art of focusing on that from an investment point of view and having maybe lower highs and then lower lows and being more stable and trying to preserve your capital with something a little more predictable, not this stressful, crazy process. And, you know, everything looks great now. Like, you look at charts for PSA 10s, everything is going up. Everyone's making money. You see 6-figure, 7-figure sales on the regular. Like, it's almost normalized. And that kind of worries me a little bit, too. At what point do collectors take the hobby back and start caring less about grading? And am I there yet? I would say I'm there. Like, I really don't care about PSA 10s all that much. Except if I were to send a card to get graded that I expected to be an 8 or a 9, they hit a 10 and I can sell it and make money. Like, yeah, that's great. But is that the focus of my collecting? Is that what guides me through this journey of collecting? No, it's a nice come up. You make a little extra money. Maybe you keep the 10 because it's cool. And it's there's no one size fits all. And even like talking about it is a little conflicting as well, because I've gone through so many different spectrums of being the person that chases the 10s and wants to get a ton of 10s. And that was part of my collection. And then I shifted into other sports and different ways I do it. And all I know is that, uncertainty may be annoying, but change is ridiculous. Sorry, I totally screwed that quote up. Change is annoying, certainty is ridiculous. Wherever the market is today, I apologize, I'm tired. I'm gonna wrap this video up soon. Wherever the market is today and how we look at collecting today as a whole, I'm curious in a year when we look back where it's gonna be and how we feel about these graded cards, and are we still giving these crazy values to PSA 10s, and do we still care as collectors? And why do we care? Because the rating companies told us to care? Because we see huge numbers and that's what we're chasing because we want our collection to be worth money, and we feel like I don't waste our money, that there's value to it? Like, I can buy that a little bit. Like, I understand that part of it. But I want you to ask yourself, like, why do you collect what you collect? I collect UFC sealed boxes is my primary goal for this channel because I think the print runs are low for UFC product compared to other sports. I love watching UFC and I enjoy it. I get a thrill watching the old fights that happened and looking at older fights. I love doing that. I'm excited about the new fights. I like to learn about the fighters and their lives and their journey and their story, where they came from. And I just think it's fascinating. And the sealed product, to go back to that, if you believe that breaks are going to keep going and people are going to like opening boxes, I think there's going to be a time when vintage boxes have their day in the spotlight. And I think UFC going to Paramount, having more exposure to that, can only be a positive to have more people come into collectibles world. And I think you'll have more eyes on it. And I think that more people want these products. And I think it will happen. I don't know how long it's going to take, but that's my theory. So I get to enjoy the collectibles. I get to buy the boxes. I do buy UFC singles for myself that I PC. I PC really cool cards and I PC Khabib. But I do it on my terms, how I want to do it. I don't let anybody tell me how to collect. And it's fun to do it the way I want to do it. I mean, it's kind of like art. Curating a collection is art. Building it the way you want to build it and having organized in a certain way and being able to share the story of it, to communicate how you feel about what you're collecting and what it means to you, is a beautiful thing. And I think a lot of collectors would serve themselves better to focus on the art and the message of their collection and how they do it than just chasing dollars. And with that said, I'm going to end the video on that note. Please like, comment, helps out the algorithm. Please subscribe to get more content about UFC collectibles, boxes, cards, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a good night.